Hi guys! I almost finished stitching this pattern, a blue version. I didn't film anything because my iPhone camera was going crazy because of blue color, but I tried a different camera and I see it's looking great actually. So I'm just gonna continue stitching this pattern, and I will be working on the video tutorials with this version, color 1, so you will be seeing clearly each color, which is different actually. And yeah, there are a little bit different ways I use it, different stitches for this curl. For example, on the previous video I was stitching this curl using back stitch, and then I did whipped stitch, but I actually don't really like how it looks like. I think chain stitch looks much better, and I already know the solution of the problem, where your thread color is changing too slowly. So I actually find out how I can make it the color changing much faster. So I will be showing you on this natural coloration pattern. And one more thing I didn't like, which I started from the beginning, all the stems I stitch it using whipped back stitch, and I use it 6 strands of floss for everything, and I don't really like the result. It looks too heavy, so I ended up with solution with just the stem stitch with 3 strands of floss, and it looks much more delicate and natural. As you can see, it's much better. So we will go with this. Okay, so I decided to cut off this curl here. So I will redo it, and I will make it using chain stitch. So it's okay if you did some mistake and you need to cut something off. Just do it gently, and your main goal is to not damage the fabric and other stitches that are close to your stitches, which you need to take it off. See? So I'm doing it really carefully. I don't have any special tools to cut it off, so but there are some tools which are made for it. That's my cat. And yeah, this is also an extension of this curl, so I will cut it off too. You can also help yourself with the needle. Like, you can take some big needle and pull up your stitches to take off the thread. Like this. Okay, and you can use this sticky ruler to remove all the rest what is left after this process. Be careful with this because your thread will become fluffy when you use this rule too often, so just see it becomes fluffy. Okay, I'm ready for stitching the chain stitch purl. Chain stitch is actually one of my favorite stitches, and I will show you how to make your color to be changed faster if you need to show the gradient for chain stitch. I have a variated thread which comes from light green to the darker one, and the color is changing really slowly. Here there are other threads where color is changed faster. This is gamma, and this one is currently DMC. So in this DMC, color is changed slower. So I'm gonna use 2 strands, and as a result, the chain stitch will look like I used 4 strands of loss. You will see now how I do it. So I threaded my needle and I will make a knot on the one side. Or no, I will make a knot on the side where I have the lightest color, because I will start from the light one. So the knot should be here, and as I have the curl which like very small, I will start from the back stitch. So the curl will start from the back stitch, and then I will switch to the chain stitch. I just did 4 stitches for back stitch, and I will now start doing chain stitch. I will be doing reversed chain stitch. I will go under the stitch here, and this way I will make a loop this way. And I will do it one more time so you will see. I will go under the previous chain stitch. Be careful to not split the stitches, and also to not split any fabric. So you will need to do it on top of the fabric. I will do one more chain stitch with 2 strands, and then I will switch to 4 strands, but I'm not going to be changing my thread. I will show you how I will do it. So now I will be doing a bigger chain stitch, and it's going to be 4 strands actually as a final result, but how I will do it, I will just go under this chain stitch. I will be just doing two times. Oops, what's going on there? Looks like I touched the French knot. Yeah, I would recommend to do curls first, and then I would recommend to do those French knots, so they will not be like it's going to be comfortable to do chain stitch before French knots. So I will show it one more time. So I go under the previous chain stitch, I make a loop, and I finish the loop in the same place where I started. And for the next loop, I just go up near the place where I did the previous chain stitch, but really close. And I will make the loop here again, and we'll go to the same place. And here we go. This is a bigger chain stitch, and it has 4 strands of floss, but we did it with 2 strands. We just did it 2 times. And when you do it, the color of your floss will change faster. If you are satisfied with the way how the color is changed in your floss, you can just take 4 strands of floss and do just a regular chain stitch. A little bit later I will show you how to do a regular chain stitch, just a usual one. This one is reversed chain stitch. And also you can, if you want to make the loop to look bigger, you can make 3 loops in the same for the same stitch, like this. When I do 2 times, you can do it 3 times, and your chain stitch will be bigger, and the thread will be changed even more faster. But for this design and for this size of design, I think that 2 strands is ideal, and or just it just actually is 4 strands of floss here. To be able to go through the previous chain stitch, I help myself with the finger from the back. I just push the fabric a little bit to the front, so I'm able to go here without touching any fabric and without touching any stitches which are close to it. And yeah, when you are doing chain stitch, don't tight your thread too much. Yeah, I see that the color of my thread will be changed soon. And to continue this chain stitch here, I will need to make a small stitch, and then I could do a chain stitch using this small yeah, my thread finally becomes a little bit darker. So this is what you can do if your thread is not changing fast. You can also do your your lazy daisies bigger if you can do them like heavier leaves like this. I was using 6 strands of floss, and I did the loop for this chain stitch for this lazy daisy actually 2 times, like I did it for 2 strands here. So that was a reversed chain stitch. And here I can see 2 lazy daisies left to do, which are going to be suitable for this color, because I still have a little bit of thread, and as I have just 2 strands, I can still do lazy daisies. I didn't come up in the right place, so I will do the loop 3 times. And for the first loop I will go here, so I will be able to make a distance between the loops, and I will make the first one. Little stitch to fix it, and now I will be doing 2 more loops. So as a result we will have 6 strands in the loop, and it's gonna look bigger. The second one and the last one. But if you see that it's not enough, you can make 1 more loop if you think there should be 1 more. I think 1 more loop is gonna look better. You can help with your finger to place the stitch to lay where you want to. And it actually has a little satin stitch effect, and all the threads are laying perfectly, so I really like this method. If you have some leftover threads which are suitable by the color to be placed here, so if you have less than 6 strands which should be used here, you can use this trick to fill it and to use your leftover threads. Because when you're working with varied threads, you need to think and plan where you are going to be stitching them to create those gradients as for those leaves and for the curls. So you can use this trick. Now I would like to show you the fishbone stitch one more time. I'm gonna be stitching this leaf, and it's gonna look amazing if you are going to use varied threads like I did for the blue version here. And I will be using the same thread color, and I'm gonna use 4 strands. I have 4 strands left, and it starts from the lightest part, and it ends with the darker one. So that's why I have a knot on the light part, and so I will start from it, and I will just show you one more time so you will see clearly how to do fishbone stitch. First you need to do is you need to make first stitch. It's just a stray stitch, and you need to do it by the center from the middle of the leaf to the top of the leaf. There are different ways how you can do fishbone stitch. It's basically like a cross stitches you do. They just overlay each other when you are moving down. You can place your stitch here on the edge of your leaf, or like I did it before with a big leaf, or you can place your stitch on the right and on the left side, right in the middle of your leaf. This way you will not waste your thread too much, and your stitches direction will be a little bit changed, and it's gonna look more natural, I guess. And I go up from the middle of the leaf on the right side here, and I finish this, let's call it cross stitch. See, because those two stitches are crossing each other, and I'm moving a little bit down. I go from here and I continue this like a cross stitch, and I'm moving down here as well, and I put in my needle a little bit under my previous stitch. If you are not sure where to put your thread, you can just lay it this way, and then you will see where you need to put your needle. The same from this side. You need to come up really close, but a little bit lower, and you can lay it down and see where you need to place your thread. So you can do it this way. I feel like this way I'm wasting less floss, and I really like how faster color is changing for this type of stitch, and I like how the leaf looks like when the color is changing. It looks more natural. See, 4 strands looks almost the same way as 6 strands. This is a nice stitch to play with, I think, and it gives you an interesting texture and volume. If your white gel pen is permanent, so I would recommend you to go outside of the lines, so all those lines will be hidden under your stitches. So you will not need to worry how it's gonna look like as a final result. You will not see it. But as I said, there is hidden erasable white gel pens, which I highly recommend you to use if you can get it in your country. So definitely get it. I can leave the link in my PDF pattern to this pen, because it's really nice if you can just erase that pen, and all the lines which happen to be visible after you finish your embroidery will just disappear, and you don't need to wash your embroidery. And here in the end, you just need to make sure that the shape of your leaf looks naturally. Just adding straight stitches in the places where it's needed to make a nice looking shape. And yeah, this is finished, and see how naturally and neat it looks like. The color didn't change immediately, but it looks really natural. And if it's too light, you can do it also using just a regular satin stitch. you just can feel one side of the leaf first and another side, and you can make one straight stitch in the middle of the leaf to so it's gonna look like a separate halves of the leaf, and it's gonna look also great. But as I did fishbone stitch and I like the texture which it gives us in the center, I will leave it as it is. So because if I will make one straight stitch in the middle, this texture in the middle will be hidden. So for fishbone stitch we don't do any other stitches in the middle, so I will leave it as it is. But if you like to do it with satin stitch, so you can do another way I just showed you. I know that sometimes for such countries it's really hard to find varied threads, so I suggest you, if you don't have a varied thread and you just can't find it in your country, and so you can use those 3 shades which are mentioned in your color palette. So you can use them instead of varied threads, and you can still create gradient effect. I will show you how. So to create the similar effect like we have here, the gradient and soft transition of the color, you can use this trick. You can start from the lightest shade. You can do 3 lazy daisy here. You can jump here and make 1 lazy daisy. And you can also jump here for this leaf. And you can do first part, the top one, with the lightest shade. Then you will need to finish your thread, and you need to switch to this part, stitch those 3 lazy daisies with this lightest shade, and you can also jump here and stitch those 2 lazy daisies with the lightest one, and you can jump here and stitch those 2 lazy daisies with the lightest part. Also you can jump from here with the same thread to this part and stitch, start stitching the curve and start making chain stitches here to the part where you need to be the color to be changed, and stop here. Then you can switch here and stitch chain stitch with the light thread here to this part, and then you can you can jump here to this leaf and start stitching it and stitch the top part of the leaf. And then you are switching the color to the darker one, and you continue doing what you are doing before. You already have stitched lightest parts, then you stitch, continue stitching, stitch 2 or 4 lazy daisies here, 1 or 2 lazy daisies here, continue stitching this leaf, and one part, the last part of this leaf will be left for the darker color. Finish the thread here. You start stitching here 4 lazy daisies and 1 or 2 lazy daisies here, a little bit of chain stitch with the same thread, jumping to this chain stitch, continue this chain stitch, 1 lazy daisy here, continue this leaf with fishbone stitch to the point when it's almost finished, and then you are switching to the darker color, the most dark color, and you continue this way from finishing everything which you started, all the lazy daisies and chain stitches, so you are finishing with the darker color. As a result, you will have the same color changing effect. All the gradients. It will look like you were stitched with varied threads. I guess you figured it out, but if not, I will show you now how I do it. So I will speed it up the video a little bit, and I'm starting from this color. I'm using all 6 strands. Okay, now I'm done with this color and I'm switching to the medium one. And now I'm switching to the darker one. That's it. This is how to make a gradient effect using 3 different shades and all the stamps. I'm gonna be stitching using this darker color, and I'm gonna use 3 strands of cloth. Here you go. I thought that I was recording, but it was not. Okay, so I'm doing a stamp stitch right now. For stamp stitch, you just need to keep your loop on one side. So if you've started with the loop on the left side, you need to continue doing this on the left side. This is a simple stitch. Here I keep my loop on the one side and I come up in the middle of my future stitch. And I continue doing this way. So this is how it looks like. It creates a solid line, but actually it looks a little bit different when you are doing using just your hands. Right now I was using the hoop stand, so it was a little bit uncomfortable. So now I will show you how I usually do it if I'm using my hands. So I'm using the big finger from my left hand to keep the thread on the one side. Like this. You can also do it this way. There is some knot here on the back. You can do it this way. And maybe it's more comfortable for you. The result is going to be the same. So you just choose which is best for you. You can also do it this way. You can place your stitch first, then you come up for your next stitch and you place your stitch here on the left side like this. Like split stitch from the top, but you are not splitting the stitch, but you are like putting the needle on the side, like under your previous stitch, like this. This is the same stitch, but you can do it different ways. It's basically depends on you how comfortable you doing this, and which way you choose. It depends on you. It doesn't affect the final result actually. So as you can see, they all looks the same. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I will stitch all the leaves which are left to stitch here, and I will be back to stitch with you those little berries. One more thing I would like you to show in this video tutorial is those little berries. I'm gonna be using this color. I don't know which color is gamma is this. You will see the color number in the color map. You already have it. So I'm gonna use 2 strands of floss and the medium size of the needle, and I'm gonna do, here is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do outlining first. And you can use, for outlining, you can use back stitch or split stitch. I'm gonna show you back stitch first. Let me turn around the hoop, so you will see. So this is going to be back stitch. I'm gonna use small stitches. They are short. So this is the back stitch. Another way you can do it, it's by doing split stitch. And when you do outlining, you also can stitch those 3 things. And this is split stitch. You are splitting the previous stitch. I like to do it from the top, so I see this stitch and I could split it. Actually, there is another way to split it from the back side, but I don't feel comfortable because you like trying to split it from the back like this, and you are not always happen to actually split the stitch you want, so it's easier for me to visually see the stitch from the top and split it from the top. And now I will switch to 3 strands of floss to fill it with satin stitch. You can continue stitching with 2 strands of floss if you feel comfortable with it, to continue stitching with this thread that you already started. But if you want to stitch it faster, you can switch to 3 strands. So you will feel this area a little bit faster. And the same way you will do less work. But as this berry is only one berry on this side, and I don't want to interrupt and stop stitching, so I can just continue stitching with 2 strands. You need to put your needle outside of the outlining when you doing this satin stitch, so your outlining will not be visible. Be careful because you can split this outlining when trying to fill the satin stitch, and part of the outlining will be visible, so I would recommend you to be a little bit careful and try to not split the outlining. You need to cover this outlining with satin stitch, but you need to put your needle really close to it, so your edges will be sharp. Here you go. If you see some gaps, like I see some here, you can go back and add one more stitch to cover it. Yeah, if you will use, for example, 3 strands of floss, this berry will look a little bit, will have a little bit volume. Currently it's a little bit flat because it was only 2 strands of floss, so It depends on you. You can use 3 or 4 strands, and it's gonna like look more volume like all those the rest objects. I will probably try now 4 strands, and I will show you what I got. Okay, that's it. This was 4 strands of floss, and my strands are vintage. I got it from my grandma, so it doesn't look so silky as it would be like a new DMC threads, but is there a little bit more volume if you are stitching with 4 strands of floss, and it could be even more volume if you will be doing like a padded satin stitch. You could add some floss in the center, or you could fill it with satin stitch in the center, and then you could cover this berry with one more layer of satin stitch, and it could look even more. It could give you more volume. I will show you now how it can be done for my next berry. Here is one more idea how you can make those berries with a little bit of volume. You can cut a piece of felt. Maybe you have some leftovers from your previous projects, and you can attach it to the fabric. It should be a little bit smaller than the outline, so I will reduce the size of this a little bit more. And yeah, now I see the outline, and I will attach it to the fabric and sew it on top of it, and you will see that it gives a little bit more of volume. So to fix it on one place, I will make one stitch in the middle of it, like this. So it will stay in place, and now I will be covering everything with satin stitch. Don't tight your satin stitch too much. See, we have a 3-dimensional berry here. This is so much fun, guys. It makes me to reduce those flat berries into those 3-dimensional ones. I want all my berries to look like this. This is so cool. The felt is a little bit fluffy, so you will be able to remove all the fluffy stuff after you finish. I will try at least. But you can use a piece of black felt, so it's not going to be too much visible on the black fabric, those fluffy stuff. It's visible because the felt is white. Look how cool is that. This is awesome. I love it. Yeah, it's better to use black felt. See, with black felt it's gonna look much more better, and there will be no visible white fluffy stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and make all the berries this way. This is much better than just flat berries. This is flat one, and this is a volume one. Much better. And yeah, that's really cool. I like to touch it as well. Okay guys, I'm gonna finish here. I'm gonna stitch all the rest objects which I already have tutorial for, and there is going to be left only big flowers, this one and this one, and I will show how to stitch those flowers in my next video tutorial. Thank you so much for watching guys. See you next time in my next video tutorial. Bye guys!